What is going on, everybody? I'm Jimmy Don Kerr, and this is the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. My guest today, if you watch his YouTube content, you'll know that he talks about three main things: comics, comics, and comics. Yeah, my boy is a mad comic fan. You get to see all the books he chooses to send out to CGC and CBCS as he does his weekly submissions, and then you get to see him open those boxes back up when they return. He also does a little bit of spec talk and also some tips and tricks and things like that. Great guy, very infectious personality. I had the pleasure of meeting him at C2E2 for the first time. Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and relax and grab your popcorn as Skeff from Skeff's Comics Knowledge answers 10 questions. Skeff, welcome to 10 Questions, my man.
Oh, man, thank you for the opportunity. I'm excited to be on here, and I'm ready for your 10 questions.
All right, so let's just jump straight into it, brother. So the first question on 10 Questions is always, what got you into comic books?
Oh, man, so what got me into comics is, first off, a phenomenal opening question. Second off, I'm not prepared. I should have some notes here, but I got to say, though, what got me I got into comics about a little over 10 years ago on a little, kind of a summer 1 to 2 year thing. When I stopped because of life, then I was able to kind of get back into comics about 3 years ago on a kind of just a whim. There was a local comic convention coming to town, and I'm like, oh, comics. And I had some a little bit extra time, a little bit extra spending money. So I'm like, let's just kind of dabble back right into the comic book world. And that kind of just led to where we are nowadays with this mess back here.
To my left, there's a big mess over here and straight in front of me, so I know how that goes. So did you read comics as a kid, or was this something literally 10 years ago you just kind of got into it?
That's exactly right. So at the right when 2008 Iron Man was coming out is when I first got into comic books. When I was a kid, I was all sports all the time. Never really a comic book person. Obviously, I was growing up where I was growing up, there were no comic shops near me. It was pretty much sports cards. But once 2008 Iron Man rolled out, there was a comic shop near me, and that kind of got me into that comic book world. And so it was a fun little 1 to 2 year of enjoying comics. And I had to move. Where I moved to, there was a comic shop, and then it kind of just went away. And it was a decade before I ever kind of opened up a comic book again.
So what led you? Because I find that interesting. You're the first person I've talked to that it kind of started later in life. Because for me, when I was a kid, I had an uncle who was into it, and that's kind of what got me into it. And then the cartoons, and what led you to that first comic book shop?
I think it was just I had a friend who I was looking to get more information kind of about the Marvel Universe, and around that same time, right after 2008. 2009, 2010, I was really just enjoying comics. That was right around the time I started reading, if that Ultimate Spider-Man run, whereas that one all up to issue 160 that I was enjoying reading, and then after that you had Miles come out, and that's kind of when I stopped. But what first got me in there was definitely that Iron Man. When that was coming out, I wanted let me know more about the MCU, learn more about comics, and it's pretty much just to read as much as I could. I didn't really understand value. I couldn't afford any things. I thought it was super cool when I was able to buy a 1 in 25 ratio variant. Yes. I lost my mind the first time I was able to buy one of those. I'm like, it's a variant, very cool. So I didn't understand. It was a very I don't say the word naive, but pure enjoyment of just enjoying the comics, reading them, finding things that I liked, and just kind of going through back issues.
No, that's cool. So do you consider yourself now, today, do you read a lot, or are you primarily just a collector?
Oh man, I have to say I would want to be truthful and say I have recently started going more into the collecting side. When I started this journey back again about 3 years ago, I was reading everything, which is where I got really lucky in acquiring some of the bigger modern value books that I have now. But I still love to read. Anytime you get a chance, crack open a new indie book, find a new artist, find a new story. I still love to read new and exciting things.
That's cool, man. All right. So question 2 is like, what brought you to YouTube? Like,
Oh,
you jump back into comics and then all of you go to YouTube. Were you like the rest of us and COVID was going on and you didn't have anything else to do? So you decided you might jump onto YouTube and say hi?
yep. That's that's legitimately it. So YouTube, coming up on 2 years right now. I was like where I was working, we were closing down. Like we were closing down for a couple months because of the pandemic. I at the time was getting a box of 25 books that were pressed and then graded, which was I think my only it was like batch number like 2 or 3 of graded books ever. And I told myself, all right, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna record this one. And that was my very first video. It's terrible. Please don't watch it.
Oh, 100%. We're going to put it on the screen right now. Like I'm going to play it right now during the middle of this.
It's so bad, unedited. I'm just like, it is the most pure thing where you just come into it. You're like, I'm just going to talk about these books. And I look back, I watch that video. There's books. I'm like, that idiot. What was he thinking? Getting rid of those books. Because at that time, like I've really, YouTube has been less than 2 years. So I've learned so much. And like the knowledge of learning comics and value and what's hard to get. And like, it's crazy how much changes in just that. I mean, less than 2 years, a year and a half.
No, absolutely. So question 3. Let's talk about a little bit of your content. Like one of the things I've always wanted to ask, and you may have said it on a video and I've missed it, but is you try to submit weekly, books to CGC, CBCS. Like why?
So,
why do you try to do it weekly?
so for one of those things is that when I first started doing this, I was like trying to get a batch of 25 together. Then I'd send it off, and then I'd wait like I don't know, like 5 to 6 months if I got them pressed or whatever. Then I'd get them back. Then I'd sell some. Then I had to recoup some funds. And then it got to the point where I'm just like, I'm only able to do like 50 books this way. This is taking forever. So eventually I decided just to bite the bullet, and I want to get like a continual stream of books, right? Now it doesn't have to be 25 books a week. It doesn't have to be, it just send some a week, 5, 10 books, whatever it is, because people always get frustrated about the waiting. So the goal for my mindset is starting eventually, I guess when it gets to like February, March, I should be getting books back every single month, which leads to like better content, more consistent content, better, whatnot videos and things like that. So like that's the goal. Like start now, not get anything back, but then once the train starts rolling in, it's going to stop every month and drop off books.
So how many books a week do you try to submit? I mean, are you submitting 5 books a week, 10 books a week, 20 books a week? Like how do you choose that?
So 1 week, so usually it's kind of every like 1 week is a big week, other week smaller than a big one. So like I just submitted, or I guess tomorrow, whatever this coming Friday is, I'm going to have 25 books to send off. Then next week is going to be like a 5 to 10 one, or like I have some CPR ones, like not CPR, but I need some, what's the word? Oh, I have some books that need to be pressed and cleaned, and there's 6 of them. So like that'll count. I'll send that off for that 1 week. Then the following week I'll find another batch of maybe like 10 to 15, send that off. It's just for me, it doesn't matter the number, just like continually send things off, and then you'll see that consistent return once I start rolling in.
That makes sense to me. I mean, especially like you mentioned with the content, because it is taking so long to get books back right now, that once you start getting them back all the time, you're going to have continuous content. And so that does make sense. Have you ever sat down and tried to figure out, like I thought maybe you had come up with this secret formula on like how many books you need to submit each week, like what's the magic number to submit so it doesn't kill you on shipping and things like that. Have you ever sat down and tried to figure that out?
Yep. So if you're going to send a book now, it does change when it comes to if you're going to get them signed, like either signed books, that changes the game on everything. But if it's a classic like Blue Label modern, it's like not like for Silver Age or like Hulk 181s. For like modern books, don't send any less than 5 books. Like if you're going to send some modern books in, send in a minimum of 5, because the value in shipping that you get back, like, and shipping there, just insanely cost effective. So like bare minimum 5 books is what I always suggest if you're doing moderns.
Is there a certain number that's like a sweet spot? Like if you do 10, I know it gets expensive.
It does.
I mean, because if you do 10 books, that's probably is that $500
No,
roughly?
no, no, no. It's like north of like it's like 225, 250 for 10
250.
books.
Okay.
Yep.
Now that's not doing pressing or anything else, right?
Right.
That's
That's
just
just
sending the book
grading.
in.
Yep. That's just a
Yeah.
modern
So if you're
grading.
getting impressed and stuff, then you're probably talking somewhere in that $500 range, right? Or at least four.
So in essence, it breaks down to, so I look at it two ways. So if a book is getting like pressed and then graded, it's going to cost me about 30-ish dollars per book. Now I only get big books that are very valuable, pressed and then graded. Most moderns that I get graded are going to be that kind of like, hey, is it going to get a 9.8 or is it not going to get a 9.8?
Right.
Let's just find out. So those usually cost me about $21 and some change for like shipping there, shipping back, and grading per book.
That's not bad.
No.
Yeah, I don't do a whole lot of grading. That's one of the reasons I was interested to kind of talk to you, because I haven't done a whole lot of that. I haven't slabbed a lot of my books, primarily because I read a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in it now. Like, I can see the value in preserving these books, and it does help value depending on the book. So do you have a preference? So in your experience, do you have a preference between, because you got three major ones, right?
Yeah,
CBCS, CGC, and PGX.
Yep.
So do you have like a preference of where you send yours? Or you primarily, because what I've seen is primarily CGC and CBCS that I've seen you do.
That is correct. Those are pretty much the two mainstays that I have had. I guess those are actually the only two I have ever used. I have never graded a book with PGX. I haven't attempted to. That's just for my own personal reasons, that I'm not a fan of like the cases. That's just me, myself. For CBCS, CGC, I like both, but for CGC, like anything Silver Age, that's like a big book for me. Like, I will only send those to CGC. I don't know what it is. I just will only send, like, modern stuff. I really don't care. But for bigger Silver Age, like for example, I had a Fantastic Four number 49, Amazing Spider-Man 31, Amazing Spider-Man 41, all in like horrendous shape, like maybe 0.5, maybe 1.0, everything's there, but just like these have been found in a box. But I wanted to get them graded by CGC just because I didn't want them to fall apart on me anymore.
Right.
So that's, but like majority of the bigger, more expensive books, I will use CGC just because I just like the aesthetic of the case, in my opinion.
Right. So let's make this question forward. Like, how do you choose the books that you send? Like, do you have a formula that you use, with like the modern books? Like, how do you choose what you send?
That's a great question that I don't think gets brought up enough, honestly. So I usually tell people that there's two ways to get books graded. Is that people will either try to get books graded and catch the peak of the book early, right? Like the first 9-8 to market of this hot book always goes for like an insane amount, right? So people sometimes try to catch that train. I don't enjoy that train. That train is too chaotic and crazy for me. I like the one that's very chill, like coasting. So for me, I wait till a book has been at least, or no, how do I say this? I usually wait for a book to be worth at least $30 for at least 3 to 4 months. I usually wait because the trick is with the volatility of like moderns, where like they're really hot, then they die, and then they can maybe pick up again. I have no problem waiting and sitting on some modern books that kind of picked up just to see where it goes. So once they kind of hit that 4 or 5 month marker, I'm like, oh, well, they've maintained. Now it's time to send them off. And usually it's about that $30 range. Anything less than $30, I normally don't send it unless it's something I love and I want to keep or whatever forever, whatever reason.
And do you care? Because I know a lot of times you'll get a grade back and you'll be like 9.6, okay, and you're fine with that. If I have two of the same books, I think I watched the most recent video. Maybe it was Something Is Killing the Children that you got back, and it was two of the same book.
Yes,
I think they had been signed.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, if this one comes back 9.6, I'll keep the lesser grade and I'll sell the higher grade.
Yes.
So do you really care grade wise what you get to keep it in your collection?
I don't, honestly. I guess I only care when it comes to like a book. If my goal is to sell the book, then yeah, I guess I kind of care a little bit. But for like stuff in like the personal collection, which is like an entire box of graded books, those I normally don't, because I'm happy to have them. Like I have a couple like Venom #3 third prints and like a 9.2 and a 9.4 that I'm just like, oh, they're mine. They're here. They're mine. The grade comes down to only if I'm going to kind of get rid of the book. But most of the time, I usually don't care too much because I try to do everything I can to like maximize the possibility of getting the highest grade I can.
Right. Now, do you sell a lot of books? I mean, is that kind of how you fund the hobby?
Yes. So I have to. I told myself when I started this journey of like getting books, like when I started like about a year ago when I started taking it more seriously, I told myself, listen, if I'm going to take this seriously, I have to use everything I've learned and seen and watched and read and all of that to become a more savvy collector. In order to get the bigger books I want, I have to be willing to sell books. So at the end of the day, most of this is like PC, but everything is for sale because it has to be that way for me in order to obtain the bigger books I want to get.
Right. So you're using the hobby to pay for the hobby. It's one of those situations where if you want a bigger book, you're going to sell some books. Hopefully, you've been able to get them graded, gained in value, and now you've made some money. And yeah, so that makes total sense to me. So I want to get into question 5, and it's really kind of how you and I met at C2E2.
Yeah, that was an honor.
At Fat Pours, we
Yes.
were all up there hanging out,
Yes.
and I was like, dude, that's Skeff, and like I had to run over and say, dude, I want you to come on 10 Questions. So, do you go to a lot of conventions?
So it's an odd question, right? For the pandemic, it was zero
Yeah.
convention, so that was brutal. I actually went to the last C2E2 before they kind of like closed everything down. But I usually do attend. I love conventions. Like fair warning, I absolutely love conventions. I like the thrill of it, the exhaustion of it, the meeting of humans, the tired. Like I love everything about it. It's something where like I just get in my brain. I'm like, all right, convention mode is on. We're gonna go. So like I usually have like 16-hour days when I go to conventions. I wake up super early. I'm there on the floor all day. Then I'll go eat. Then I'll stay up and do more work. Then rinse and repeat. So like I love convention. I try to get to as many as I can.
So that was my first convention.
Oh,
and yeah, so that was my first one, and I primarily came because I've made all these friends on YouTube, and a bunch of people were going. We're like, hey, this is a cool chance we can all meet up, and go look at some books too. So when I first walked on the floor, like it was kind of overwhelming to me, right? Like I didn't know what direction to go.
That's you. That's your first convention.
Yeah, that was my very first one.
Insane, mate. How long have you been? You've been in the comic hobby forever.
I have a long time. I mean, I was like everybody else. I collected as a kid.
Yeah.
Got out of it. Then my kids got old enough to where I was no longer cool and they didn't want to hang out with me anymore. And so I tell the story. We were shopping one day and I hate to shop. And I told my wife, I said, there's a comic book store up here. I'm just going to walk up there and go look. And I walked in and it was like, the heavens opened and the angels started playing music. And I was like, oh, I'm home. Wow. So I kind of got back in. And when I got back into it was when Rebirth started. Like Rebirth just started.
Wow.
So that's when I got back into it. And
There's some good reads. There's some good reads in Rebirth.
Yeah.
I'm not even a big DC fan. I know Rebirth is good.
Yeah, Rebirth was solid. And so I got it. It was a good place for me to jump in because it was the beginning of something. And I'm more of a DC guy. So I was able to kind of get
perfect.
Back. Yeah, right, sure. That's what I was going to say about you and your Marvelness. That's fine.
Gotta love the respect.
But no, so it was. I got into it. I started reading because I read a lot. Like I just like to read, period. And so I started reading a lot of the books and going to a convention honestly never really crossed my mind. I was like, the closest one to me is Lexington, Kentucky.
Okay.
They have a convention.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the closest one to me. And I thought, I'm fine. Well, then I started doing YouTube and everybody's talking about all these conventions and I'm seeing these convention videos and I'm like, dude, that looks like fun, So I went, what, if you had to nail it down, like, give me your top 3 favorite things. Like, you can even, put it on C2E2. Like, when you're on the floor, like, what's your favorite?
Oh man, like favorite thing to do at the show?
Yeah, just like the favorite thing to do when you're on the floor.
That's a great question. So so listen, this is gonna sound terrible. I am super competitive. Let me rephrase this. I am extremely competitive for someone who works in who doesn't work, but like who enjoys comics. So for me, like I have like there's like I make a list of things I want to get to, because like each usually bigger show like C2E2, New York Comic Con, San Diego Comic Con, like things like that, they usually have like exclusives that are like available like first thing that morning. So like I make a list of like things to get to, and my goal is to like complete that list for the entire day. Like I write down which booth, which number, where is on the floor, how much does it cost, how many do they have, and if I can track down and get each one of those, I like a little feather in the cap, like check completed. Other two things I love to do on the floor is I love looking at wall books. Those are always a blast because I like to look at the books. So I'm like, oh, can I hold that car? Let me hold this car real quick.
Right.
This is awesome. This is worth more than what I drove in on. So take this away from me.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then the third thing, which is just a brand new thing, is obviously meeting all these people in the YouTube community, actually putting like bodies to faces in person. That's changed the game for me, because I used to go to conventions like solo, like a lone wolf pack, like a wolf pack of one.
Yeah.
And I would just like beeline in, get things I need, not really kind of like, waver. But it was different this time around, especially like at New York Comic Con and C2E2, like just meeting people, and like that was game changing. So that is now part of like things I must complete when I go to a show, is I need to meet these people like you, Jimmy, and all the other people that I met from YouTube in person.
Yeah, no, for me, and I've thought a lot about this, because I think I would do it different, if I go back, because I think
it's a learning curve, my man.
It really is. Like I knew there were exclusives, but I didn't take it that serious. Like I was like, okay, this is my first time,
right.
So I didn't really go after the exclusives. I like autographs. Like I collect autographs. So I was really interested in going over and talking to like some of the artists and the creators and getting their autographs. And I brought some books with me. Meeting Chris Claremont was a highlight.
Right?
Like, he was
cool.
He was the coolest cat. He really was.
He goes to almost every show too. He is in the foxhole in every show.
Yeah, so he was super cool. And then I think, it goes without saying, meeting everybody, because that's the entire reason I went, right? I mean, like, that's why I went. I didn't know if I would even buy a comic book. I was like, I just wanted to go hang out with everybody. And so, but then the second thing, and it caught me off guard how much I actually enjoyed it, was the cosplay.
Dude, phenomenal, right?
It's so cool. And there's such creativity and just beautiful costumes. Like I was just shocked at how much I enjoyed the people watching.
So the passion you have for comics, like where it's everywhere you've been doing it, that same passion applies to people who cosplay. They take it just as serious, and it's just always on display. And it's like, and C2E2 is actually on like the low end of like quantity of people. Normally there's a lot more. Yeah. Dude, normally there's like a whole parade of the cosplayers going through the show floor. Like a Gen Con, they do it every year, like a cosplay parade. Like these cosplayers are on point. They know what they're doing.
No, it was so cool. Like that was probably, the thing that surprised me. Was that like how much I enjoyed that part of it, because I thought, oh, these people are getting dressed up. It's like Halloween. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
It is dead serious, man. Yes. I mean, and it was just really cool. Like I really enjoyed that part of it. And I think probably I really enjoyed looking at the art. There's so much beautiful art there. That was something that was really cool. And then I begged a guy to let me hold the Action Comics #1, and he wouldn't. I begged him. He wouldn't let me hold it. Yeah, he was
which booth was it? Was it Reese's?
No, it was Metropolis. Metropolis.
No, yeah, they don't let. Like, there's a couple other big books. Like I think Reese's has a couple big ones, and like I think if Heritage was there, they'll let you hold the big books.
Oh, I begged him. I was like, dude, because that is my book. That's the ultimate grail for me.
That's phenomenal.
Because I'm a Superman guy, so that's the ultimate grail for me. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. It's probably one of the best times I've had for myself, outside of my family, of course, that I've had in a long, long time.
That's awesome.
Like just meeting you, DJ Links, Comic Man Andy, Wink, JPG.
Right.
I mean, the list goes on and on. Comic Vet, Rob Fatstacks, Taylor Winder. Like it just goes on and on and on. The people. It was just so cool to meet everybody. And I love that part. So, like during a normal year, like let's not say COVID,
Okay.
affected year, like how many cons would you go to? So you went to New York, I know, and then you
Yes.
went to Chicago.
Yes. There was also Indiana Comic Con here locally that I went to. So I went to that one because it was backdoor. So
That's right. Didn't you and Tyler went too, right? And didn't you
yeah,
guys
yeah,
hook
we
up?
did.
That's right.
Yes, we did. So it's gonna be interesting. So normally I try to make. So I guess pre-pandemic, I've been to, like in 1 year, like I made it. So I made it to New York Comic Con, C2E2. I'll go to Gen Con. I'll go to Indiana Comic Con. There's normally like an Indie Pop Con. There's always like there's usually a smaller convention in Chicago, like a gaming convention. I'll try to make it to, and there's like another like convention in Ohio that I try to make it to. So I usually try to make it to like now, granted, they're not all comic books, but maybe like 5 to 6 shows a year. But 2022 though, I'm gonna go to a lot of shows, like the most I've ever been to in 1 year, because that's my goal. My goal is to get to more shows than I've ever been to, if as long as shows happen. As long as
Right.
shows
Sure.
happen.
Right. No, anymore we have to have that caveat, right? As long as they happen, we don't get
The
locked down.
asterisk. Yes.
Yeah. So, can you kind of give me a comparison between, let's just say, let's New York and Chicago,
Oh,
and then
man.
versus like maybe a smaller show
Yeah.
in Indiana? Can you kind of give me a kind of a difference,
I can.
good and bad for
Yeah.
the different shows?
Absolutely, absolutely. So obviously, like you have like kind of like the elite, the middle, and then like kind of like that basic package, right?
Right.
So when you get that basic package, when you get those local vendors, they're more than willing to work out deals, more bulk deals. Because the trick is like the smaller the show, the cheaper the booth is to purchase, right?
Right.
So they don't have to worry about making as much money back. So they're more flexible. You'll find cheaper books, older books, maybe more dollar bin stuff, maybe more random finds. But as you make it to like an Indiana Comic Con, they're more than willing to bring the bigger books, right? So like small shows, not too many big books, maybe medium show like a C2E2, they'll bring the bigger books. But then you get like to a New York Comic Con where it's just like everything costs so much money, they're going to bring all the big books. That the work you have to do pre-convention is greater for the bigger shows, so you don't miss out on opportunities.
Sure.
So it requires more recon to do the bigger shows. At least for me, it does. Like a local show, I'm like, oh, there's a local show? Give me like 20 minutes. Let me grab like a portfolio and just walk out there. But like for C2E2, I'm just like, okay, there's only like a couple big booths there and a couple artists, nothing crazy. Do a little bit of homework. And then for New York Comic Con, I'm like, let me get my booklet out, my spreadsheet. Where are we going? Where is this at? Because the bigger show, like more risk, more reward, right? There's more opportunities. There's more people. That means there's more competition. That means you better be on your A game in order to get what you need to get.
Do you have a preference for the shows? Like, do you like the bigger show like New York,
Oh,
or do you have a preference for like a smaller show?
You know what? I really do dig. If I had to pick, that's a good question. Let me think about this. I guess if I had to pick like one, if I had to do here, I guess I'll do this. If I had to pick like one like big New York Comic Con show a year, or like 12 like smaller local shows, I'd go with like the 12 local shows.
Yeah.
I would do it every time.
That's cool. So just more for the fact that there's the opportunity to maybe find some better deals and maybe find some more books that maybe you're looking for in the back bins.
Yes. Yeah. I would do the 12 smaller shows. If I had to choose between one or the other, I would do the 12 small. I mean, I'd choose both. But I guess realistically, like if I only go to like one major show or like 12 smaller ones, I would go to the 12 smaller ones. Sure, they'd be more work, but I think there'd be more opportunity there.
Right. No, that makes sense. Cool, man. I appreciate that. Appreciate you answering that, because that's one of those things that I knew you were kind of going to cons. That was my first one. And I was like, I really felt overwhelmed. Like the first day. Feeling. Yeah. And I would do it different because like we drove up there. It took about 8 hours to get there.
Right.
And we drove up on Friday morning because I had to work. So we drove up on Friday morning and we got up there earlier than we thought.
Yep.
And if I had to do over, I would go on Thursday.
Yes.
So I could spend all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because there's so much to do. There's so much to see. You need all 3 days when you're at a big place like that.
Yes. And you'll never see everything. So I guess a few random hot Skeff tips for like a convention is that you'll never see everything. So be okay with that. And like plan a list of things that you want to get done first. Like, oh, I got to see this panel, or I got to go see this artist. You know what I mean? Like, prioritize things you want to do. Also, something that a few people, if they watched the video, made fun of me for: bring Ricolas or bring yourself some cough drops. I kid you not. This is because what you're doing all day is like screaming and shouting, right? You're
Right.
so loud.
You are.
So you get
Yes.
home, you're like, I can't talk because I've lost. So like, I can't, like, everyone's making fun of you. But by the end of Saturday night, they're like, Skeff, you got any more of those Ricolas? You know I do. Pack those. They're lifesaver. And also, weird random one, always pack 2 sets of sneakers because you need to give the shoes a break in between days. Because you
Do all
wear
of them
them.
have concrete floors like that? That concrete was brutal.
So the problem was, here's what happened. Normally, I looked around. I'm like, this isn't C2E2. What happened here? So what happened is that in order to save money, normally they have this beautiful like red carpeting everywhere because it matched with like the red and black theme of C2E2.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't put it down this year. So most shows, most bigger shows like that do put down like a carpeting. But this year they didn't, and I think it was to save cost because of how much they're trying to like recoup. So
Well, yeah, too,
normally,
because you don't have as many vendors. You didn't have DC and
correct,
Marvel there. You're spreading everybody out.
right,
So you have to save money, to be
yes,
able to make it work. So that makes
yes,
sense. All right, so let's jump to question 6. And one of the things I know I saw you doing there was you were on Whatnot.
yeah,
You were selling on Whatnot. Tell
yeah.
me how that came about. Like, did you just show up and say, "Hey, I want to sell on Whatnot," or did Whatnot, contact you and
Skeff is here. Move
yeah,
aside. Time to
Skev's
sell
here,
books.
step away,
Get away. I got this. If only it was that cool.
right?
So Whatnot, I am honored and privileged to be part of on a random stumble back in like end of like July. So I was actually out when I went to New York Comic Con. I went there with the intention of selling, and they reached out to me saying, "Skeff, would you like to sell at New York Comic Con?" I'm like, "Yes, sign me up." So they gave me like a 4-hour time slot, and I had no idea that I could have went for 4 hours. I only took 2, and I sold everything. And I'm like, I should have went 4 hours. But I did so well in New York Comic Con that I immediately talked to the gentleman in charge, Jack, Mr. Bolo, that I'm like, listen, when C2E2, whatever convention you go to, just bring me. I will do this again at every show. So for C2E2, they pretty much had me like penciled in to like sell live from there. Just I had to figure out what time and day I'd do it. But I was already kind of like already invited to sell, and I was honored and privileged to have that ability to sell live from the show floor because it was crazy.
Oh, it was cool. I know you and Wink. I saw both of you guys or the people that I knew that were there doing it.
Yeah.
And so, did you just roll up with your own stuff?
So
And
that's
then,
I did. So I brought some home stuff with me. Like I bought a couple graded books. Now the trick was that like I didn't want to bring too much from home with me. Right? That's more stuff to carry around. That's more work to do. So I'm like, all right, let me do the hunt thing. Let me go out and look for things I could pick up while I'm at the show that I can get rid of while I'm at the show, so then I can just ship them when I get back. So like it just seems too easy. So that's what I did. I went around, picked up a couple good deals on some slabs, found some exclusives, put together a pile, got some Whatnot ones, and then just kind of like, all right, let's see how this turns out.
cool. So, I mean, was it fun? I mean, did you really enjoy
Oh,
yourself? Was it kind of a different thing being there on the floor,
it's
versus doing a normal Whatnot sale?
so the great part is like when I'm on the floor, I can be as loud as I want. When I'm at
Right.
home, I have to like cap that caliber because family. Don't want to be
Right.
waking everybody up. But doing it on the show floor it's different, man. Because then you actually like you start doing things, moving your arms, like waving, like pointing at things, and people there in the audience, and like you flip the camera around, show people what you're looking at. It's a different way to do it, and I loved it. Like I will do it at every show there. Like I don't care where they are. Like where are you going? Oh, I'll be there. I'll do it live. It's such a fun way to do it, to interact, and you can actually like you start to get people like watching you sell books live because they're like, oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer, and I will do it at every show I can get to.
So let's talk a little deeper about Whatnot. Whatnot seems to have, I don't know that it came out of left field. I know it was kind of a Funko Pop thing. A lot of
Yeah.
people were selling Funko Pops, and then
Yes.
they got into the comic books, but it
Yes.
seems like it's just taking the comic book hobby by storm. Like,
Yes.
a lot of people are selling on Whatnot. That kind of seems to be the thing to do now. What do you think do you think it's had a positive impact on the community, and kind of where do you see their place going forward in this hobby?
So Whatnot's a fascinating unicorn of a tech company who does live auctions. It fits at it became it's officially 2 years old. I think as of like a month ago, it's been out for 2 years, and they did start with Funko Pops, and it just started as like a random, and then the pandemic hit, and that's when they started picking up, right? Because everyone's home, so what you can do, just hop on your phone, sell live, and then I think it was back in like maybe I think maybe May, where they started like, oh, so they started doing sports cards and Pokemon cards, and like, let's do some comics. And I think that's when like Jack Bolo got involved with it, and then I got involved with a couple months later. But they started like, I think comics are a thing people like. Then it became like a thing, and then I started doing it, and I kid you, like it's so much fun, and it's so simple, but it's very convenient. And I think the convenience of it is what draws me to it even more, right? Where I could just take my phone, which I'm recording, or like I'm on this video now with, set it up on my tripod, put some books out, list some things, and just go. Is just so much, and you can interact. But I think at this point, it's here to stay. It's one of the things where like people are like, it'll go, it'll come, but it's just become such a convenient tool. And when something becomes a convenient tool, it's hard to get rid of that conveniency. Like it just sticks around.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like it revolutionized eBay in a way. Like
Yes.
it's a revolutionized eBay.
Yes.
But you get, instead of just sitting there bidding on things, you're in a group of people and you can hit it up in the chat.
Yeah.
You're talking. It's interactive,
Yes.
and I think people dig that. And I think it seems fun.
It is. It's absolutely. Also, here's a little fun tip. I've been going to a lot of conventions for a lot of years. This was and I actually I had the privilege of meeting Jack for the very first time there was a national sports card convention too that I went into. I think it was like back in May that I went to it, and that's where I met him for the first time. At that national sports card show was the very first time ever I've seen eBay have a booth at a show.
Really?
Yes.
And that has to be because of Whatnot.
Because they were not only at the National Sports Card Show, they were also at Gen Con, which is a gaming convention. They were there with a huge booth giving out promos, and they're also at New York Comic Con, massive booth giving out promos. And now, granted, Whatnot was not at Gen Con, but they're at the other two shows. So it's one of the things where like eBay, I think, has noticed that people are kind of like enjoying this other platform, and they're like, oh, we better go to shows because they're going to shows and handing out stuff. I think we should probably go to shows and hand out stuff.
So let's make this question 7. You mentioned, you'd went to a trading card show.
Yeah.
Are you into trading cards? Like, do you like, ball cards, basketball, football, baseball? I mean, are you into that stuff?
So I grew up as a kid. So for people who had comics, I had sports cards. So I collected like baseball cards when I was a kid, which was apparently a terrible financial decision I could have made. Worst financial decision of my life as a 7-year-old. Should have known better. Should have kept my Pokemon cards, which I still have some of. But I enjoyed the Pokemon cards. I enjoyed the baseball cards. I dabbled in a little basketball, football, and I just enjoyed it. But my buddy got into sports cards pretty heavily, and I also knew that like sports cards seemed really cool, and I was learning more about it. There are some great YouTubers that talk about sports cards, go to shows, have great YouTube videos. Just another way to kind of educate myself on like the grading market via like sports cards, right? And I've taken some of those tips and tricks that people use in the sports card hobby and kind of applied them to comics.
Sure.
Which I don't think a lot of people are doing. So I don't dabble too much in the sports cards world. I have some Pokemon cards that I've graded, but mostly I appreciate what they are and how much they're kind of impacting the collectible market.
No, well, I mean, we're probably about the same age, if not close. And I collected cards when I still collect cards. I'm from Kentucky, so obviously Kentucky basketball is a big thing.
Yes.
And so that's what I collect. I had to hone it down because I was collecting everything.
Right,
I only got so much money.
You're right.
And so I now collect Kentucky basketball player autos.
Nice.
When they get to the NBA, I try to grab the rookie cards, like
right.
patch auto.
Beautiful thing. Yeah, the RPAs.
Yeah, those things. I enjoy those, but they're so expensive. I said that's the thing.
Oh yeah.
I remember being a kid, and I'm sure you do too. You could buy a full box of basketball cards. It'd have 36 packs in it with probably, 15 cards, 20 cards, or I think
Yep.
it was 16.
Yeah.
But you could get one for $30.
Yeah, you're looking for those inserts. That's all you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's all it was
You
back
get a
then.
high end box today, it's $3,000.
It is. It
It's
is.
insane.
It is.
Yeah. And that's, I think, with COVID, and that's one of the things I want to kind of step into as well, is kind of with your experience in selling and doing some of the things that you're doing, is what you think how this comic market and really just the hobby market in general is going to fare in the next few years, because it's been an incredible time
Yes.
as far as, prices going up on
Yeah.
books. I think your blue chips will always increase in
Yes,
value.
they will.
I think the new modern books, those intrigue me because there's such spikes in them.
They're volatile, which is
Yeah.
phenomenal, which everyone loves, right? Everyone loves that, like, oh man, okay, fine.
Yeah. But like, where do you think we're headed the next couple of years?
So I love to be like a pure optimist. So it's just pretty much like, all right, we'll see you up there. It'll be one of those fun things where I love it. Honestly, it's one of the things where I truly, I don't kind of care where it goes.
Mhm.
Like I have what I have. I don't have anything I don't have anything major. Like there's no massive amount of money like tied up in like one individual book. Where like, oh my god, if that goes down, like I'm ruined. But the ebbs and flows, the way the trajectory goes, and I pretty much, it's all on writers, artists, and how is the movie and film industry doing.
Right.
If those guys are killing it, comics are gonna be fine. As long as streaming services need content and writers and artists keep producing some awesome stuff, they're just gonna it's just one and one, man. Like they're gonna keep using comics to create more content because it's out there, and if it's good, they'll use it.
Yeah, no, you've already got a script essentially,
Yeah.
and I notice a lot of times when I read books now, like for example, I'll use Berserker as an example. It's written like a movie or written like a TV show.
100%.
It's because that's what it's going to be.
That's the goal. Yeah,
and so it's written that way, and I noticed that a lot with a lot of books today. But I agree with your take. I think as long as the MCU's killing it, and with HBO Max can do something with DC, then Netflix and Amazon can do something with these indies. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah. There's a lot of hope out there, and I think this thing is like everyone's like they're just like waiting for the sky to fall, and I'm like, if people actually pay attention, and I know you probably one of those guys over the summer, like giant size X-Men #1, those were hitting all-time highs. Now they're about 25% less than they were at summertime. So they've already peaked, and they've already started to come back down to like a more acceptable reality. But have they come down all the way? No, they haven't, because there's that fixed point of like, all right, if it gets below this, I'm gonna buy all of them, right? Because you believe, like, it's all up to like one individual person. Like, how much do you believe this book's gonna go up? If you think it's gonna go up this much, just buy all of them, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, interesting. All right, so let's go to question 8, and let's kind of have some fun.
Yeah.
Let's get to know Skeff a little bit better. All right, so do you have any hobbies outside of like comic books or trading cards or anything like that? Is there anything you like to do? You watch sports? Like, what are you kind of into?
So I used to have a lot of hobbies. Now it's everything. Like I love sports. I love playing sports. Like I love going to the gym. All this thing. Like I just like anything like sport related. I do love. But when it comes to like hobbies, like this is like family, like work, and like comics. That's pretty much kind of like any hobby that doesn't help me get better at comics. I kind of just pushed off to the side. Like I'm focusing like 100% this 2022 on like it's going to be all comics 2022.
I like it.
But yeah.
All right, well, let's talk about sports. You like sports? Like, what do you like? College? Do you like pro? What do you like?
I'm a very ignorant human, and I only like professional because I don't have the capacity to learn all the kids' names. I am going to be 100% honest with you. I know it's a pure sport, and I know they'll get paid for it, but I'm like, nope. Give me the $1 million crybaby. I'm gonna watch him dunk that through the hoop right now. Let's go.
So is it more basketball for you than it is anything?
So basketball, baseball, and then basketball, football, and then baseball playoffs only because I'm that person.
I am too. I mean, and I love baseball. We live reasonably close to Cincinnati, so we go to Cincinnati and watch games from time to time. And that's honestly, it's probably my favorite thing to do sports wise is going to a Reds game. Like
Oh,
there was just
man,
something about the atmosphere.
it's different.
Yeah, it's just fun.
Different.
I enjoy that. And then Kentucky football is probably my second,
Nice.
just because I'm a diehard and have been for years, and we're finally good. Um, and then after that, I'm more of a college fan.
Right.
Like because I live in Kentucky, we don't have any professional teams in the state of Kentucky. So I'm more of a college person. Like, who's your pro team?
Man, I guess I don't know. Like for, I guess for football. Let me think about this one. I mean, I've been like a Seahawks fan for like the past like 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've enjoyed them. They've been terrible recently. I've been like a really sad Bears fan for
Yeah,
like 16 years. It's been a rough 16 years as a Bears fan. Uh, but I just enjoy the games. Like if there's as long as there's a good matchup, I really don't care. You know
you're
what I mean? Like,
cool.
yeah, I want a good game. Give me like a
Cool.
game where like it comes down like the fourth quarter and it's been crazy and crazy hit. Like I'm down for that. There's no like if there's no team I live or die by. Like I like rooting for certain teams and some certain players. At the end of the day, just give me some like good football and then I'm good.
Yeah, no, I'm like that. Now, college, live or die by the Cats, right?
Right.
Like
I
I'm
think
an
yep, you have
insane.
to. Yep. All blue.
Yeah, I'm an insane Kentucky fan. When you're born in Kentucky, they pretty much put the Big Blue Nation onesie on you and say welcome. It's that's just pretty much how it goes here. But now pros, I enjoy the NBA, but I like watching the Kentucky guys.
Yeah.
Like I've got the NBA package where I can watch
There
any
you
team
go.
anytime, and I
There.
watch the Kentucky where if the Kentucky guys are playing on a team, I watch them. The New York Knicks have become my favorite team because there's like 8 Kentucky
There
guys
are.
on the team.
They've had a lot of they've had a lot of first round picks, haven't they?
Yeah, so there's a lot of Kentucky guys on there. All right,
Yeah.
so question 9: do you enjoy movies? And outside of comic book movies, like, do you watch anything outside of comic book movies, or have you
Yes.
pushed that to the side?
No. My movies have since I was a kid, it's always been movies. Like movies have always been my go to for everything. Like most of my life has always been like movies, all types, all genres. I love a good movie. The only type of movie I don't really like is I'm not a big fan of like the slasher slash like gore films.
Mm-hmm.
But give me like I love all movies. Everything is phenomenal. Like give me something to cry to, give me something to laugh to, throw a rom com in there, give me like a fantasy one. Like if it's a good movie, I will sit down and I will enjoy it. But I do. I've loved movies. Like a lot of movies. Like give me like all the monster movies from the '80s on
Oh yeah,
repeat, and I'll
mm-hmm.
be good.
And
I'll
you'll
be
be
happy.
happy. I
Yeah,
love it. Like
love those practical effects.
if you had to, like, say, like, what's the movie that when it comes on, no matter when it comes on, you're going to watch it?
The Thing,
The Thing.
the John Carpenter, The Thing.
I love it
Every time.
every single time. I
Every
love that.
time. No, granted, I don't have cable anymore, so I just click whatever I want to now. But when like when I had cable, it was on. I'm like, I got everyone's. I have to watch this movie. I've seen it 300 times. That's one where I just have to. I have to pay respect to Mr. Carpenter and watch Kurt Russell fight this all the way through.
I love it. That's awesome. All right, last question. Question 10. Are you into music?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I gotta say, yeah, gotta say, I love music, and I will. I'll listen to almost any like for music. A very, very eccentric palate. Like I'll listen to anything. Like just give me something with a good beat to it that isn't too sad, and I'll roll with it. Like I listen to music when I'm packing up my books. I listen to music when I'm editing, actually. But yeah, it's always I've got my Apple Music. It's always on, and I always have like a favorites mix that just plays. It's always random stuff.
So give me 5 songs that are going to be on Skeff's favorite playlist.
Oh man, I'm a big. I don't even know what to say. It's so embarrassing.
Say it. I don't care. I love it.
So you know that song "Stay" by like Justin Bieber, and
Yeah,
that song, phenomenal song.
it's a good song.
It's a great song. There's another song Wiz Khalifa did with I forgot the name of the band, but it's called like "The Thrill of It." Great song. I've been a big fan of AJR this year. They're a band that I've pretty much put them on. Pretty much, I like Macklemore. Put some Macklemore on there for me. And I'm always a big fan of Rise Against. So like throw some Rise Against in there.
I like Rise Against. That's
Right?
a band that I listen to some now. Like I'm more of a metal guy. I like Metallica.
Yeah,
Obviously.
respect.
Yeah, love the mighty Metallica. I'm more of a rock and roll kind of fella.
I'm more boring. I am much more like minivan driving, less
But I do like Rise Against, though. I think they're good. You know, I like Five Finger Death Punch. I like bands like that. You know, that's my thing. And
Those
then I
bands
live in
are
the country, so everybody here listens to country music. And I don't hate country music. I just don't like bro country. I can't stand this new bro country music. I like the old stuff like Hank Jr. and Willie and
oh
Waylon
man,
and
yeah.
Conway and
So
all that.
pure. I call that pure country.
Yeah,
It's pure
it
country.
is. Yeah, no, that's fun. So,
Yeah.
man, that's 10 questions. That was
Oh
so
man.
much fun.
Ooh.
Yeah. It went by quick. That was, you know, we try to keep it around 45 minutes to an hour. We're like 49 minutes right now. So that went by really fast. So that was a lot of fun. Well, Skeff, I want to say, dude, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure to get to meet you in person at C2E2. I dig your vibe, man. I love watching your channel. My favorite things at the beginning, you know, you kind of break that out.
What's up, everybody?
What's up? I love that. That's kind of my favorite. I love that. But no, I 100% dig your vibe, brother, and I really do appreciate you coming on.
Nah, man. Thank you for the opportunity. Listen, like I like I kid you not, like I'm always honored and humbled when anyone like reaches out and say they like my videos. Like there's no like I truly cannot thank you enough for enjoying the videos, taking your time to take time every day to have this conversation with me. Like I truly cannot thank you enough, and I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and just have a chat. Like I love doing it. Like I'll do it with anybody's channel, but it's always so humbling when someone comes up and like, oh man, I'm like, I haven't done anything crazy, but thank you for the opportunity.
No, man. Like I said, well, you just put out such a good positive vibe on your channel. I think that's, you know, and you put out interesting content. You're always, here's the books that I'm going to send to CGC, and then you get them back, and then you open them up, and you know, it's clever and it's witty. I don't know. It's just fun, man. But yeah, dude, I really appreciate it. Guys, if you're watching this and you're not following Skeff, I'll link him down in the description below to his IG and obviously to his YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Go over and check him out. Such a cool guy and such a great member of the community. All right. That's it.
We did it. Huzzah.
We did it. That's been 10 questions.
Peace, y'all.